Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Shonen and Chill, hosted by Zenrotto and Oceaniz.
Hello, hello, folks.
And boy, uh, this is probably a mean topic for an intro, but did you see that poll that Shonen Jump did, where people voted on their
Oh,
favorite mangaka
oh, the
for
thing you
art and
posted.
for script writing?
Yeah, I only saw what you posted,
Oh,
so I
okay, so
really.
there's a full one. I just took screenshots of the relevant bits that I thought were it was, because I like Togashi and I like Akatami, and it was cool to see them both in the top three. Um,
Mhm.
Man, the Horikoshi only got 11 votes for script writing.
Hoo. But wait, okay, so where was this poll being held in Japan or?
Well, okay, so I only saw a screenshot of it from someone else that screenshotted the whole thing.
Mhm.
And the way they talked about it made it sound like it was like literally one of the magazine polls where they just poll you like in the book and you send your
Okay.
answer in. Um, it was man, fuck, let me see if I can find it now because it was really funny seeing where his placement was.
Mhm.
Because the first place got like 150 votes.
So like, yeah, it would be like
Here
the
it is. Okay.
leader.
So, or I don't know. I can't tell if this is translated. It doesn't say. It's different languages on it. Um, but the question was, what two mangaka from today's Jump would you like to create a manga together? Uh,
Mhm.
and so it was people voting on their favorites for art and their favorites for storyboard and script and stuff. And then they
Mhm.
made combinations out of that. It's really funny because the number one pair is Yoshihiro Togashi and Yoshihiro Togashi doing both of it.
All right, all right.
Yeah, and then the second pair is Akatami and Togashi. The third is Horikoshi and Togashi. So Togashi's in the top three of all pairs. He is the entire first pair.
Well, hey, he just came back, so it's good that people are
Yeah,
showing him some
and then
love.
the fourth pair is Horikoshi and Akutami, which is I think pretty cool combination. Um,
Honestly, that's probably the combination I would want.
yeah, well because these are also divided up by art and storyboard. It's like
Mhm.
in by name order. So like when it says Akutami and Togashi, it's Akutami art, Togashi writing.
Mhm.
So it would the vote was for Horikoshi's art with Akutami's story,
Mhm.
which
Yeah,
would be
but
pretty
with
crazy. But yeah, so the number one ranked artist for art was Horikoshi with 88 votes. He got
mhm.
22.2% of the votes.
That's fair enough.
Hmm
His art is immaculate.
Second place was Togashi with 52. Third place was Akutami with 44.
Are you sure there were more choices than those three?
Yeah, because there's a big list. Like after
Okay.
Akutami is Tabata, then Yuto Suzuki, Ichiro Oda, all the way
Okay,
down
because
to I think it's every mangaka that's currently published. There's some that got 0 votes.
but that's odd because I mean, no dig at Togashi and Akutami's art, but I would have thought sort of for sort of popular appeal, someone like Tabata would
Tabata got 37 votes. Akutami only got 44, so he got 1% of the votes less than Akutami did.
okay.
But I mean, if
Still, that's
Togashi's getting
surprising.
52, Akutami's art style is very reminiscent. So people who like Togashi's are probably like Akutami's art as well. And
Yeah, true, I guess.
and I don't know who is Ryo Nakama. Which series is his?
Ryo Nakama? The name is familiar. I want to say um Ryo Nakama. That might be. It's not Undead Unluck. It's not Mashle, I don't think. Is it? Wait.
It's not
Wait.
Aliens Area. I checked.
Ryo Nakama is High School Family.
Oh, okay. He got 0 art votes.
I
Literally
mean,
not one.
have you read High School
I
Family?
haven't. I've seen the cover.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be mean, but I'm not entirely surprised by that. But I think that's also more to do that his art style is, or their arts. I don't even know what they identify as, but their art style is very unique to the kind of series High School Family is. So yeah, I can definitely see that if you were voting for like a general manga hypothetical, you probably wouldn't want them as the artist.
Yeah. And then the only one who got 0 in script writing is the mangaka of Roboco.
Hey, you know what? You know what? I stan. I do appreciate that result. Although it's interesting again because I mean Roboko is pretty popular, and I mean as a comedy it kind of lives and dies by its script,
Yeah,
so
it
it
is
is
a little weird, isn't
interesting.
it?
Yeah. Well, as I said, I'd be very curious to see sort of who exactly was pulled and when. I'm assuming if
Yeah,
Togashi is so high up, it must be very recent.
probably within. Yeah, it seems like something that may have been done like 2 weeks ago and then posted in this week. I
Hmm.
really don't know.
But okay, so besides this, do we have any other news?
Don't think so. None that immediately springs to mind as a reminder. Uh, and usually, if it's something big like an anime adaptation or something, I will remember it.
Hmm.
So I don't think
No,
so.
the only thing I saw right before we started the show is Fujimoto broke character on Twitter.
Oh my God,
Yeah, because the way he used to be on Twitter is to pretend he's his own sister, which
I
doesn't exist.
remember that.
Yeah. And only tweet like once a month. He has done, wait, let me go on his page. I think he's tweeted like 28 times in the last 5 minutes
Oh my God.
because he's live tweeting the anime and going, "Huh, I remember writing that."
I fucking love this guy.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, that's cool." Or the one that started was something like oh yeah, I remember getting this chapter published was a hassle. Yeah, if I click on the random one, Makima-san's shadow is nice. It sure is. Sure is, Tatsuki. But yeah, so that's the only news I can think of just because it literally happened right now. Um,
That's funny. I'm gonna have to go read those after we finish recording.
click translate tweet
Hmm.
38 times.
As
Love
one
that.
does when they like
Yeah.
manga.
Oh yeah, and shall I just announce the big upset to the show now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, folks. Uh, in the dark of night, me and Zen found elusive samurai lying in an alley, and we put it out of its misery.
It was already bleeding out. There was nothing we
It
could
was.
do.
It's been bleeding out for like a year, and we were in denial. But that guy was still in that fucking alley bleeding, so we shank we shanked him. We did it. In other news, I caught up to Spy Family, so we'll be talking about
Completely
that.
unrelated event.
Yes, we s- we st- we stabbed elusive samurai with a Spy Family branded knife, like one of yours little daggers. But yeah, I caught up to Spy Family, which means there's no reason for us not to talk about it on the show anymore, which means we get to throw out another series, and
Get
well, Elusive
to
Samurai.
feeling like the Shonen Jump editorial department. Oh, this looks pretty good. Time to toss something out in the garbage.
I mean, okay, I'm gonna be real. Today, reading the chapters and managing being able to just skip Witch Watch and Elusive Samurai felt great.
Didn't it though? Like not
Yeah.
having to even click on it. And it's funny because people are saying apparently Witch Watch is good again, but I ain't falling for it, man. I
I
remember
just
when it was good, and I remember how sad I was when it ended up sucking again, and I'm not falling for it again.
I mean, I will say the idea that it instantly gets back to the plot the moment we drop it is really funny.
It is hilarious. It is, but I'm not falling for it again.
I can appreciate the comedy, but I don't want to read it anymore.
It's about time
Uh,
we appreciated some comedy from Witch Watch.
yes, for once. Uh, I mean, it's not like there was much to appreciate. I mean, take your pick: the manga girl, the student council, or jeans.
I would take the jeans if I had to pick between any of those.
Well, yes, but that's because of positive association with the greatest character ever made.
That's true.
um, but yeah. So what do we talk? Wait, no, that's not how this goes. First, we do our top three. We-
We've forgotten the format of the show.
Well, it's been a rough end of the year.
Okay, so I think my top three is number three, uh, Akane Banashi, number two, Chainsaw Man, number one, Jujutsu Kaisen.
All right, all right. My number three are number three, Undead Unluck, and number two, Jujutsu Kaisen, and number one, Chainsaw Man.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Undead Unluck
Uh,
was real close for me, but not quite.
yeah, I mean, same for me with Akane Banashi. Honestly, they're always
Yeah,
again,
it's all
it's
very close.
yeah. There's always like this pool of series that just hits different, and the rest is like the sideshow. Not in like a derogatory way, but some of these things clearly want to be of a higher echelon of manga. They're trying a little harder, in my opinion. But it's not like you can fault Ginka and Gluna for not being crazy at like chapter 7 or whatever.
Right.
Um, and there was a series that used to be in that echelon of manga that were good every week. I wonder where it's gone.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. What's first?
First is Choujin X.
So this was a chapter.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. It was okay. It was not. It was strangely for a series where I really like combat in it. I didn't love this one. It had some cool stuff in it. Like I really like page 5. I just think that image is
Mm-hmm.
cool as shit. The whole fight's cool. I like this weird dude in his weird creepy mask where he's just like a power thief or whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he's like a power collector. Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't really understand what Chojin power allows him to just be like, I have armor now. I can just do that. I thought he was gonna like
Mm-hmm.
make it out of his. I guess he did make it out of his chains because the chains are gone now. I don't know. And now he's got like a sword too. I don't know. It's pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it was a little hectic in the sense that there was a lot of information, a lot of stuff happening, and very little time to like, I don't know, uh, understand what it was. Like, literally from the first moment when he's talking about, you know, the emotions that Chojins are sort of obsessed with and whatever. I was like, oh, okay, 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 what's happening? Where are we going? What? Um, so yeah, it was a little fast paced and a little confusing, but it was fun.
Yeah,
I
it was
thought
it was
it
a
was
fun
very
ride.
cool.
It's just that it's hard for me, especially in a chapter like this with Chojin, where I'm like, you know how it is. It goes into the dark recesses of my mind only to emerge
Yeah,
when a chapter releases.
yeah,
It's hard for me to follow up on previous exposition. So this was a lot at
yeah. No,
once,
for
but
sure.
it was fine.
Yeah,
That's all I
it
really
was
have to say
fine.
about it. It was fine.
Some good art, some great like body horror with the girl. Very
Yeah, I
cool.
liked when she had like the fingers coming out of her eyes and stuff. That was gross.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Wanted to vomit out of 10.
All right, next up is Jesus. Okay.
Take a breath.
Naruto, Konoha's story, the Steam Ninja Scrolls, the manga.
Revengeance, the return, part 2,
Continuum
epilogue.
shift
Rewrite, remix, 2.5.
over two
Uh,
days.
uh, yeah, this was like more Naruto content, I guess.
Yeah, it feels pretty mediocre after the Sasuke stuff because this is just like, hey, look at this little girl you've never seen before, even though technically you know who it is. Fight this old man you've never seen before. And then like
Hey, hey,
Shikamaru's
hey.
doing stuff, and then we get like the surprise little Kakashi thing, which was nice.
Yeah, but technically, if you've watched Naruto, you have seen her before, just as a fucking
Yeah, but as
toddler.
a fucking baby, she's nothing. Just a little baby.
Wow. Zenrotto goes on record saying that babies are nothing?
Babies are
Ugh.
mediocre at best.
Wow. A baby is not going to debate me in VC.
If any baby wants to refute my claims, meet me in the Shonen and Chill Discord.
VC now, if you want to refute. Uh, can you? That's one of my like pet peeves with like it used to be a big thing on like anime YouTube where it's just like, bro, debate me in VC. It's like, dude, I am not on fucking Discord every hour of the day. What's your problem?
Yeah, one, I'm not on Discord every hour of the day. Two, I'm not going to go into a Discord server you own full of your rabid, like, dudes to
Hmm.
argue with you about some shit that I don't care that much about.
Well, no, clearly this will be about something very important, whether babies matter or not.
And I still hold that no baby will have the stones to debate me on this public Discord call. We'll stream it. Any baby that wants to debate me. Then
What if I want to debate? What if I want to debate you? Do I not count as your baby?
the next Shonen and Chill Live is just gonna be the baby debate.
But like we just call it that, and people are like, oh, they're gonna like bring up like pros and cons of parenthood, and we're just like, babies fucking suck, goo goo gaga ass little idiot.
Need a bottle, you little fucking idiot. Get out of here.
Big wobbly head little pissant.
The thing about calling a baby a pissant, it's the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life.
No, in
Just
German
a
we have
crying baby, and you're like, shut the fuck up, you little pissant.
in German we have an insult that's basically like you little piss tulip.
It's funny because piss baby is one of my favorite insults, and it's actually accurate for real babies.
That's true. As folks, as you can hear, we clearly enjoyed this manga a lot. No, but I am actually more okay with a story about Mirai than I am about shit like Boruto, because at the very least Mirai was like an established factor in the story of Naruto. You know, when Kurenai was pregnant and Shikamaru was like, "Oh, I gotta protect you." That was cool, and I'm glad we get to see more of adult Shikamaru because he's definitely one of the best characters in Naruto, and I feel like this chapter is mostly pretty accurate to that.
And I also liked that because when it was like he ran into someone in the woods, I was positive it was going to be like Naruto or Sasuke, and it was cool to me that it was Kakashi. I like Kakashi. I like seeing him do some things again. So that was cool. But
Yeah, and I like that it seems like we're gonna get Kakashi and Guy shit on this mission, which I'm always up for.
Just some general shenanigans, which I'm down for. Those two have the best shenanigans in Naruto.
Yes.
And plus
The
this, like, I don't know, maybe it's because part of the issue with Boruto for me, well, I mean, other than everything, is that it got so high stakes so fast. Like there was no time to breathe in Boruto before like Kaguya was, or whatever the fuck that thing's name is, was coming back from the moon.
Yotsuki.
Yeah. Whereas this is just like I'm escorting these two old men to a hot spring town, even though they're both shinobi, and that'll be fun. Should just be
Yeah,
like a
that's
fun little
fine.
story of her like dealing with general issues.
Yeah, and I mean that kind of goes into what we said last time about the Sasuke story as well, where we're at the point with Naruto where we have seen the earth-shattering destructive battles. So the real value now with our adult characters is to see them just in more casual, low-stakes situations that are just interesting and goofy. Um, you know, like I don't want a story where all the adult characters come back to help the kids fight off an evil that will destroy the world. I want stories, you know, about Kakashi and Guy dealing with the fact that they're getting old, or fucking Sasuke investigating Velociraptor prison. Like that shit's cool. That shit's way cooler than any Otsutsuki bullshit, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it was fine. It wasn't as fun as the Sasuke one because I think the Sasuke one had enough like crazy out there shit that I was like, this is awesome.
Hmm.
But this was still neat.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely did not have a Velociraptor.
There's zero Velociraptors in it, which was a problem.
Zero Velociraptors out of 10.
Also, there's absolutely no fucking way that cat would have stood in front of her and tried to guard her. It's not a fucking chance.
Yeah,
That cat would have
I'm,
been gone.
that cat would have looked back maybe once, licked its paw, and moved on.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I stood on the tail of a friend's cat this weekend. I felt awful, dude.
Oh, yeah, that does feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, she was, as I was still on her tail, she looked up to me like completely unbothered. So I assume it wasn't that bad, but still.
The cat's calling you out. Is that all you got?
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's a compliment. Means I'm not that heavy, so that's pretty cool. Also, to get back to the chapter real quick, the fucking cowboy hat dude just like talking to himself for 3 straight pages and pretending she's giving him answers is so fucking weird. Like he's just like, ah, yes, young lady, what are you doing here? Ah, of course, you're a Genin. Have you noticed me? Maybe yes. Oh, maybe I should move on. It's like, dude, take your
Yeah.
meds.
It,
Like, yeah, I mean, he was kind of fun for what he was. Just like a one-off little villain guy.
yeah, I mean, I guess he was fine. He didn't really have to have a character because he got just tossed immediately.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the fact that he has a mullet and a cowboy hat is enough character for me.
True. And I
Like
guess he
that's
has like a.
enough.
I kind of like that he has like a ninja headband that's so fucked up you can't even tell where it's from.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. Um, I don't know. It was fine.
Yeah,
It wasn't
yeah,
offensive. It wasn't great. It was
yeah.
fine.
It was fine. It was fine. Shall we move on?
Yes. Next up we have Spy Family.
Yeah. So should I just also give sort of my general impressions of the
Probably,
series?
yeah, because we are 70 chapters in and it's our first episode, so you may want to just give some general, thought on
And
what you felt
yeah.
about it on your read through.
Well, what was funny about it is that for 90% of it, it was kind of more or less what I was expecting. The only thing that really like took me for a spin was the setting. Because I didn't realize, I was like, oh yeah, this is like a cutesy, funny little haha spy family series. Like, oh, the little child is weird and the woman is like crazy strong. Oh, that'll be cute. And I like opened chapter one and it's like, this takes place in Berlin, separated by the Iron Curtain. War is on the horizon. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, what? That really took me. Because I don't know how it is in the US, but here obviously sort of the visual and the vibe of post-war Germany is still very much uh part of the collective conscious in Central Europe. So it was a bit of whiplash. Where I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna read something like light and chill. It's like, oh yeah, they're rationing shit on the East. I'm like, oh, oh no. Um, but it used that setting really well in my opinion. I think it balances that really well, sort of with the real life analogy of post-war Germany, and like the stakes of there being another war with a very cute like family series. I could really feel Shinzo Abe smiling down on me as I was
Basking
reading
in
it.
in his light.
Yeah. He's like, ah, yes. Wouldn't you also like to have children? And wouldn't you also like to be Japanese and contribute to the Japanese population? um, and yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I've never been this entertained by just watching a bunch of 6-year-olds. Like the school chapters with Anya are actually really fun, which I wasn't expecting. I actually really like Anya. She's such a fun little gremlin.
Yeah, she's the
Uh,
kind of character where I thought I would get tired of the shtick, but I never really do.
I don't know. I think it's part of. I think part of that is because she's so like such a sincere take on a quote unquote dumb kid character. Because she's not just stupid for the sake of it. She has like an internal logic, and that logic just happens to be extremely dumb
Hmm.
most of the time. And that's kind of where the fun factor comes from. Also, her facial expressions are phenomenal.
They are all extremely good, yeah.
Yeah. And I was kind of surprised that Lloyd is like the explicit main character. That was something I also wasn't expecting. I was like sure it was gonna like switch continuously between him and Yor, but even with like the recent arc on the yacht where Yor was,
Hmm.
the main girl, it still feels very much like Lloyd's story. Um, which I don't mind like positively or negatively. It's just something that I didn't expect. Um, but yeah, no, it's super fun. I really enjoyed my read through over the last like 2 3 days, and this newest chapter again like very cool. They're just kidnapping a bunch of kids.
Yeah, to
Very
try
cool.
to, I forget what, just to, I forget if it's to ransom them, I think I don't remember.
Yes,
They're doing
it
something.
was.
They're
Yeah,
assholes. And I
yes,
do
they're
like because
ransoming
the
them.
the initial thought that goes through my head is oh, Lloyd's just gonna get called in to fix whatever this is. But they can't for this because he's not nearby. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
And now
I
that
wonder if
Anya
the
has,
organization's going to have to get involved to help because Anya's 4, so I don't think she's gremlining her way out of this bomb collar.
hey, you never know. She'll read the mind of the bomb caller. But no, I really think it's cool how it sort of manages to make like these fun one-off situations that ultimately still feel like relevant to the larger quote unquote plot, I guess, getting closer to the Desmond family. And I also like how the series really builds onto the Desmonds,
Hmm.
where it's like I was sure that by the time I would be caught up, that whole plot point would have been resolved, but no, not at all. It's really cool like that. Um, and I do like the whole comedy bit where they're like giving each other messages, and then all that comes of it is Damien trying to tell them that he's gonna shit himself.
I love Davian.
Yeah, he's such a piece of shit. Um, but yeah, no, fun chapter, fun series. Very big fan of the 6-year-old that has the physique of Jotaro Kujo.
Yes, he's one of the best characters. I love that kid.
I think it's just so funny that everyone's like freaked out by it, but no one has an explanation. He just has a growth spurt.
He's just fucking huge.
Love that. Um, but yeah, no, fun chapter. Very excited to sort of read it and excited to have it on the show now.
Yes, excited to have it
Keep
on the
up with it.
show for unrelated reasons that
Yeah,
Elusive Samurai's not here anymore. Um, Definitely a show-worthy series.
yeah. I mean, I'm very excited to like get to the chapter where they all figure each other. Well, where the parents figure each other and Anya out. Because I feel like that is an inevitability for a series like this.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know how you necessarily figure out that she's a telepath, but eventually I feel like Lloyd and you are gonna have to be aware of the other,
Mm-hmm.
at least in some capacity.
Yeah, because I'm kind of surprised that like the romance aspect between the two has not been pushed as much as I was expecting.
Yeah, they tease it here and there, but they never really like commit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it kind of feels again, it feels like something that is going to be inevitable at some point,
Oh
right?
yeah, you can't have a series like this and not have it happen at some point.
Yeah, I mean it's literally, you know, propaganda for the nuclear family. Like, you're gonna have to commit to it fully. But yeah, in that case, if you don't have anything else to say on it, I'm good with moving on,
Yeah, I think we can move on to Blue Box.
which was cute.
It was
I
cute.
liked it.
I
Yeah,
liked
getting
Glasses Boy giving the harlot some context into
Mhm.
her harlotty actions.
Yeah. It was also weird that that was the cliffhanger.
I know that is a weird cliffhanger.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if she's going to re-examine herself or if I even really care if she does or not. Um, but I
I'm
mean, he
not.
does
I've
have a
been.
good point that like, of course, it's all fun to you because you're the one who's getting, you know, pampered and doted on by all these people who like you the whole time, and then when you're done, you just leave. But like, it's not fun for them. And he's
Mhm.
right. Again, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's a moral lesson that needs to be learned or something necessarily, because you don't owe anybody anything. Um, but
No, but I mean,
you know,
if you if you have like a habit of toying with people, I think a perspective check isn't harmful, right? Um. Also, I'm getting vibes from the glasses guy. He's around just often enough to the point where I'm like, how will you be important, like beyond just being like the voice from the sidelines?
yeah, he's been the like backdrop voice of reason for too long for me to not think something's gonna happen involving him eventually.
He is gay.
It's gonna be a romance rhombus with Shinatsu and Hina and the harlot and now him too.
Oh no, the romance dodecahedron. The legends were true. He has a crush on Haru. No, but honestly, like as much as funny as it sounds right now, I would actually really love that. Because I feel like this series has a big like leg in the whole discussion of okay, what are you supposed to feel, and how do you distinguish that from like what you're actually feeling and what you're like projecting onto yourself. So introducing like someone who's not straight into that or whole thing could be a pretty sweet idea. I mean, with manga, especially with shonen manga, that one is always a little
Yeah,
oh
I don't
no,
see it happening for that reason alone, and that it's just shown in
uh-huh.
manga, and they ain't got the bravery. If Naruto and Sasuke can't fuck, nobody else is. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, cut Kishimoto some slack. I feel like him saying that they fucked would be redundant.
I understand that it should be understood because, but I can't. But the thing is, he's so bad at writing women that it's believable that a male friendship is a better written romance in one of his stories than anything with a woman in it.
Yeah, I mean that's also true.
He's just so genuinely heinous at it.
The way Kishimoto writes like male friendships is oh, he was the light at the end of my tunnel. He was the only thing that gave me courage to face myself. And then the way he writes like female romances involving women is oh yeah, I liked her boobs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, though, actually. Like,
It's
it
like,
sounds
what
like a
Hinata?
joke, but it's also not.
Yeah, it's like, what Hinata? I really didn't like you until I noticed your fat fucking bangers
You're
there.
not
Holy
that.
shit.
This is such a bad segment because you are not even really making that up. Like,
No, I'm not. I'm
the,
absolutely not. It's not.
he's getting his shit fucking rocked by pain, and then he's like, "Wow, Hinata, you're here to help me. Don't do that because you're not strong enough. Also, holy shit, what is that outfit that you're in? Maybe
Yeah.
I do love you." And it's like, what the fuck?
I mean, I- my pet theory for Hinata's like part 2 design has always been that Kishimoto was worried readers would not pick up on the fact that she's supposed to be the end game love interest. So he just gave her massive tits.
So he just absolutely. I don't know why that's really fucking funny to me.
He's
It's
like,
just the
ah,
idea that she's just fucking rocking giant boobs.
yeah, I mean it's even funnier because like I mean again, this is a complete like conjecture on my part, no evidence for it. But the thought of it is so funny because like she's so obviously meant to be the romance interest from like the moment she shows up. And he's like, "Nah, the readers aren't getting it. Slap some fucking double D's on that shit. Make sure they
There's
fucking get it."
Sakura, we gotta really get it in.
Kishimoto Sensei, we have a different problem. What now? They think it's Sasuke. Oh no,
Ah, damn it.
we can't
I don't
slap
think
tits
it's
on him.
Sasuke. It is Sasuke.
um, yeah, Blue Box was good.
It was alright.
Yeah, it
Naruto
was
and
alright.
Sasuke should have banged. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Alright, the
Naruto and
next
Sasuke should
section
bang.
is
We can
uh
skip Witch Watch. We can skip Elusive Samurai. Just
God,
scroll
it's
past.
so beautiful.
Right.
Mashle.
Which was again sort of a very Mashal typical, like,
It,
oh,
it
some cool shit is happening.
It sure was a Mashle chapter. I
Mm-hmm.
do like the light guy. I find him really funny. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited that he's here to fight. And I thought it was cool that like I almost thought they were gonna make it a gag that he like got blasted right at the beginning and didn't do anything. And I was like, oh no, he's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be useless. So I like that he's up and fine. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I really like the color page this week. With the Halloween theme. That's really cool.
Yeah, I like any holiday themed color pages when they have them.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really celebrate Halloween here, so it's cool to get that vibe through manga at least.
We don't really celebrate Halloween here anymore either.
Yeah, I don't know. Isn't it like really big in the U.S.?
I mean, the holiday is, but people don't really do anything with it anymore.
Okay. Yeah, because here it's very much kind of like the weird thing the people across the ocean do, which is a shame. I always really like the idea of Halloween.
It was big when I was a kid. Like you like go out trick or treating and stuff, but now people don't really do that. Stranger
Mm-hmm.
danger terror, I guess. I don't really know why.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, no, the Mashal chapter was again one of those like chapters where there's not a lot of depth to it. There's just a
There's
lot of cool
some
combat.
cool ass shit be happening. That's about it. Out of 10.
Yeah, some cool ass shit be happening out of 10.
Next
What's
up,
next?
Ginka and Luna.
All right. This one gaslit me into thinking it was going to be good.
Tricked you,
Um
did it?
yeah, cuz during the fight they have, the like children start like talking about like the fundamentals of magic, and I was like, "Oh shit, they're going to like explain the way it works." But the explanation is so fucking bad. Like they're like, "Oh yeah, every magic the basis of magic are three incantations: the sword, the arrow, and the shield." And I'm like, "What? But what? How does this line up with anything we've seen so far?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, we combine the sword and the arrow, which gives us a sword." It's like, where's the arrow? um, and then Luna fucking defeats them by using none of these fundamentals. She just like barges in front of them and then accidentally breaks their wands and then bribes them with like cool bread, so she can go fight the big boss guy, who yeah is like literally just a Black Clover character. It's not
He
even like
really
funny.
is just a Black Clover character, like straight up.
Yeah. Also, he shoots Ginka into space. That's kind of wild.
Huh.
Um, and yeah, I've no clue how to interpret this. If this is like the series just sort of wildly trying to find appeal, or if this is like part of some large narrative plan. But it feels kind of confused. Um, but the fight's cool. Uh, you know, uh, the way she beats him is kind of whatever, but it's fun. It feels less like it's concerned about being a battle shonen and more concerned about just being an adventure series. And so like, oh, how did you beat like the Magic Twins? Oh, I threw some fucking rocks at them. Why not? Um, so yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It's not. It didn't leave much of an impression on me besides the whole oh, we're gonna explain magic fundamentals thing.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's fine.
it's fine. It's all
If
right.
anyone's wondering why I didn't even chip in at all, I forgot to read it. It's just that memorable of a series.
Yeah,
Uh,
really lives in your head rent free, doesn't it?
Rent free.
Yeah.
Next up is Sakamoto Days.
More Club Jam,
More
baby.
Club Jam all day, every day. It
Yeah.
was cool as shit when he grabs the little SD card out of Seva's hands and it breaks his fingers.
Hmm.
Shit was awesome.
Yeah, and how you can instantly like figure out that he's lying.
Hmm.
Also, it's cool that the guy isn't betraying our boys yet, or at
Yeah, well,
all.
he
I
got
guess.
he got like hypnotized into betraying our boys.
Yeah, that's true, but it's still kind of cool how we got to see the process. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was just gonna be like a power,
Yeah,
but he's
like it
like,
was
no,
just a thing.
yeah, it's just we're just hypnotizing. Um, and yeah, Club James fun as fuck. He's literally just a JoJo character.
I know, I love
He's
him
like,
so
oh, how
much.
interesting. It appears I'm burning.
It appears I'm above a puddle of lava.
How
Hmm.
cool. I love his creepy, like unblinking eyes as well. Which is a weird thing to say for manga because no one blinks in manga, but still,
Yeah, but
you
like
know
you
what I
can
mean.
tell. You can tell,
Yeah.
I also really like the panel where he pulls himself out with his little sickle and chain thing. Just because the
Hmm.
motion is conveyed super cool from the front of the panel with like the upward motion, and then you get that because you can kind of just even skip the one where he's actually kicking off the bookcase in the upper left and still
Hmm.
follow the motion just fine. So I like the
Hmm.
the detail in that.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. I mean, yeah, motion is one of those things where Sakamoto Days just it makes it look easy, right?
It really does.
Hmm. Um, and I also like how the first thing he does with his hypnosis is to make the guy's pain stop. That was kind of interesting, where he's like, "Oh yeah, it just doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. There you go."
Hmm.
It's a cool way to sort of introduce his ability properly. I mean, we've seen the effects of it, but this is the first time we've seen it like on screen. Also, the more I look at this guy's like design, the weirder it gets. Like he has like under his coat, he's naked, and he has like a cross like rope pattern with
Hmm.
a rope around his
With
neck.
yeah, with like a fucking noose.
Hmm.
Also, I really love the way that he draws that invisibility cloak thing. Looks so fucking
Yes,
cool.
yes, that's so cool. Like with the warped
Hmm.
like
The
floor
floor and
behind
like the
him.
doorways and stuff behind him. Shit's
Super
fucking
nice, super
crazy.
nice. Yeah, so I guess we're gonna figure out how to defeat a Club Jam next week.
Which is a
How to
shame.
undo.
Absolute
Yeah,
shame. Lose
yeah.
out on
Well,
Club Jam.
it's okay. It's Sakamoto Days. We'll get another cool character soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, the Sakamoto is good at creating like fun characters. But yeah. Other than that, I have not much else to say.
Works for me. Next up is My Hero Academia.
Oh, brother.
Oh, brother, indeed.
I mean, okay. Before we start with the usual ritual, um, I thought the fact that Choji got like this context and like his flashback, those are all pretty sweet things. Um, I would absolutely have preferred that flashback as like, the end point to an actual arc or like
Where
an actual
shit
like
actually
mini.
happened involving them. They
Yeah,
did a thing on screen. Yeah.
yeah. But we're at the end, and the series is the way it is right now. So I am glad that this context for him exists. I'm glad that he does have a backstory. Um, but yeah, I kind of wish this flashback would have been like, you remember in Jujutsu Kaisen when there's like that one chapter where they're trying to get Yuji on a date with like a former classmate.
Hmm.
Yeah, like one-off chapters like that is something I think My Hero could have really benefited from, sort of now in hindsight. Um, because also someone on Twitter pointed out that in this flashback we see Deku collecting trash, so we can actually figure out when this is. Happens sometime after like Deku and Bakugo fight for the second time. So this is like ages ago, and it's like, hey, you couldn't have like shown this, I don't know, sometime else.
When that was happening.
Yeah, yeah. Like if there's one big lesson to take from like My Hero, even if you like still enjoy it, I think one lesson to take from it is that flashbacks or analepsis, if you want to be a nerd, are very useful tools, but you cannot rely on them exclusively because this has started to feel really weird. It's honestly starting to seem to me like Hori pulled the trigger on like societal collapse too soon and realized that himself. And so now he has all of these cool ideas lying around for like his characters that he cannot do anymore because society as they knew it doesn't exist. And some a scene like this kind of requires things to be all right outside.
Hmm.
Um so yeah, I kind of wonder if there's like a bit of like not to say regret, but sort of like trying to sort of make up for the fact that he collapsed society a little too quickly. Um, because I think you can go back to like many episodes ago, probably like the first few episodes of Shonen Chill, where I think I've already said that I believe the story needed one more arc between Endeavor Agency and the war, and that arc should have been like a low stakes like hangout arc.
Hmm.
Um, because it really feels like the story is now trying to compensate for the lack of such an arc or such a chapter. And so we get stuff like this where you have a very good, character motivation and character climax that cannot really reach their full potential because they happen, you know, right next to each other, on top of each other even. You don't have like the buildup of tension over time where it's like, oh, is Shoji ever gonna be able to like really live up to his words? So that when you get to the climax, you don't get that catharsis, that release of tension. Um, and I think one of those things that people will definitely sort of point at in retort to this is Kirishima. That like, oh, but Kirishima's moment was also like this. And to that, I would say that Kirishima's moment happened, you know, half a lifetime ago, fairly early on in the story, by all things considered. And so now, Kirishima is like an established character who can come in again and further develop like what we know about him. Like when he fights like Gigantomachia in the war. Whereas with Choji, he just got his quote unquote starting line in the final war, which is a little weird. And I guess you could say that I care too much about like a random side character that has been the epitome of like no name for years. But I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna try and give him a backstory and give him like an emotionally resonant moment, do it right. Like
Well, yeah, that's
don't.
kind of my thing. Is like, it's funny when I see Twitter reactions to a chapter because they're always like, two sides of like this super extreme where like
Mhm.
one person will be like, "Oh, this is yet again proof that my hero was never good," which is not true. And
Mhm.
then there's also the one person who's like, "Wow, Horikoshi's unbelievable ability to just make you care about anyone in a single chapter might be the best writer in Jump." And I'm like, "You got to be out of your fucking mind." Like
Mhm.
the the fact of the matter is, and I think you kind of touched on it when you were like, some people are just going to tell me that I care too much about a character who was a no name. Okay, but Horikoshi's making us sit with him through this moment, and he's trying to make us like it just feels more gaslighting. Like he's actually been cool the whole time. You just didn't know.
Uh-huh.
And it's like,
Mhm.
shut the fuck up. I don't care anymore. Not only like is it too late, it's too late to give him a character arc and then resolve it in the next page. Like it's
Mhm.
too late to do that. Two, the final battle has started. Like Deku is
Mhm.
fucking fighting all for one right now. I don't want to move away from that to go spend multiple chapters sitting with no name McDuckbeak, whoever the fuck this guy is, and learn
Mhm.
about how a long time ago kids were mean to him, but then he also got a hug and fine. Like
Mhm.
awesome. Thanks. I don't
Yeah,
give a
'cause
shit about this right now. And pacing does actually, matter. Like if
of
you're a My
course.
Hero super fan and you just don't give a shit at all about what you're actually like reading, and all you care about is that it's My Hero on the page because you just love every second of everything, then fine. I can totally get why it wouldn't bother you that this was placed right here. But the fact that we're in the final arc, Bakugo's near death, on the ground, they're desperately trying to save his life. Deku's fighting the main bad guy. He's busting out powers we've never seen before and crazy combinations and trying to like deal with this fucking most powerful character we've ever seen. And then they're like, "Hey, did you want to listen to Tentacruel and like whatever the duck boy is, the guy who makes the ducks come?
Uh-huh.
Do you want to watch them talk about how crazy it is to not look normal for a couple of chapters?" No, no, I don't.
Tentacool and Dr. Doolittle, as
Doctor
you call them.
Doolittle, yeah,
um, yeah, the thing with My Hero, and we're discussing My Hero online, is that you always get to the point where someone like demands that you explain to them the fundamentals of storytelling and justify them. Like, yeah, theoretically you can like build up a character arc and resolve it in the same chapter, the same way you can theoretically put chocolate on cooked beans. Like it's a thing you can physically do, not that you really shouldn't. Like the basis of a lot of character arcs, and this is not like a one size fits all approach, but the basics of a character arc is that you want to set up some sort of conflict, some sort of idea that the character needs to deal and struggle with at some point, and then build up that tension over time. Even if you don't like bring it back up, you're building that tension every time that character shows up. Say you showed Shoji's like struggle with his body earlier on, and more explicitly than just him saying, "Oh, they have clothes for me. How cool!" Because he does say that once. You show that early on. You plant this idea in the head of your audience, and then it creates that tension going forward. Whenever you see Shoji, like, "Oh yeah, he's struggling with like racism and shit." And then you get to a moment like this where you release that tension and create catharsis, create joy over the fact that the tension has been released and the conflict is being dealt with. That is the basics of any character arc in any piece of media, with notable exceptions obviously occurring, but it's there. It's like this for a reason, because catharsis is a feeling that most stories do chase. It's something that we enjoy feeling. And so when you have something like this where you want your audience to feel catharsis over a problem you introduced 2 pages ago, it's just not nearly as engaging. Not to mention that, as you mentioned, like pacing does matter. It does really disrupt the vibe of this arc to suddenly pull back for this little side story. And I do genuinely believe, and I'm convinced of this more and more every day, My Hero just needed a low key arc or like a low key few chapters. Sprinkle them in here and there to like relieve tension, and have just class A do shit together and naturally discover these things about them. Because now that I think about it, it is kind of annoying me that like we get the big reveal of his face, but now we're told that his class knew for like most of the
yeah, that they
year.
already, Yeah, that
Yeah,
like also is.
yeah. Um, so yeah, it's not the most elegant way to do it. But again, after a lot of bitching, I do need to reiterate because people keep forgetting that I do actually like my hero. I am glad this scene exists. Like on a pure sort of Wikipedia list of things the series has done, I am glad that this exists. I think it makes Shoji cool, and I think it makes me appreciate him more, like in hindsight, even if there's a lot of potential lost. And uh I as if my YouTube channel wasn't enough evidence for that, I'm someone, I like to think about these things, and if I see that some potential is being wasted, I get frustrated and I want to like, you know, think about it and talk about it. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have Shigaraki revealing that he plays League of Legends, which that's fucking fantastic. I love that.
That's so funny.
That's phenomenal. Because I understand why he'd be a villain now. Anyone anyone who plays League of Legends should low key be on a watch list. Like I've seen those chats. That shit's not normal. Mm. But to not to be too positive, I will say I'm getting a little tired of the fact that the series is like continuously, oh, Spinner and Shigaraki, they were such good friends, they gamed all the time, and it's like, okay, could I have seen that? Like, could you have like made that a thing that happened at some point?
Yeah, that kind of goes back to the show don't tell, right? Like,
Yeah, because also, and this is something my friend Ian brought up to me. It's the fact that until like My Villain Academia, Spinner and Shigaraki were not on exceptionally good terms. So they just went from sort of being uh very tense with each other to being best buddies between the time where they defeated Redestro and the time that Shigaraki went into the soup to become stronger. It's like, hey, that sounds like a really interesting time for the league. Why didn't you show more of it? And wouldn't you know it, it would fit perfectly in that slot between Endeavor Agency and the war. Wow.
hmm
It's almost like there should have been more there. But it's it's just crying over spilled milk at this point.
yeah, it's one of those things where like if we talk too much about it, we're inevitably going to get people who are like, "Oh, you're just mad that it's not the way you wanted it to be." But like also, yeah, because the way I
Yeah.
wanted it to be was better. So like, I don't know.
Well, also like what is an opinion if not you looking at a thing and deciding how well it matches with what you wanted that thing to be? Like, I'm sorry, if you watch a movie and you're like, "Oh, I like these parts and I didn't like these parts." The parts you liked because they are the way you would like them to be. It's again, it's the fucking thing where people ask you to justify and establish basic facts about human enjoyment of media and basic storytelling techniques. It's like I don't have to explain to you that yes, my opinion is based on what I would like to see because that's how opinions work. Like
Yeah.
okay, let's talk about something funny. Let's talk about how Shoji tells Spinner to shut up and be a nice little minority.
Yes. The funniest tweet I think I've ever seen in my entire life was after this chapter came out, and someone said, "Never ask a woman her age, never ask a man his salary, and never ask Kohei Horikoshi his opinion on the Black Lives Matter protests."
But oh my god, yeah, because again, I don't think there's anything like nefarious here, but oh my god, the way he has handled the real life parallel of this subplot has been extremely clumsy at best.
At best. And every time I bring it up, everyone's like, "You're reading too far into it." But it's like, I'm not though, because I'm not saying that he's being intentionally malicious. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that. I'm saying that he's writing about a very sensitive topic without maybe doing the due diligence that should have gone into doing that correctly or well.
Yeah,
Um,
'cause
Writing about something like this, where you've got it, this is essentially the same thing as if you had like a minority protest and a minority cop, and the
mhm.
the you've got the minority cop basically just saying if you are all just nice and suffered through the discrimination as long as society needed before we could all be nice to each other, that's the correct way to go about it, right? Like framing all of whatever fucking I don't even know his name Tentacruel is
Yeah.
doing as like explicitly correct is very very clumsy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to catch on the whole thing about, oh, you're reading too much into it. If a writer chooses to make a real life parallel, then they are burdening themselves with the responsibility of dealing with that parallel in a respectful manner. Like, if you're gonna make uh, an analogy between mutants and real life minorities, if you're gonna go as far and as to depict anti mutant groups as the KKK, as Hori did, then you are accepting, by implication, the burden of then having to deal with that subplot, at the very least in a way that isn't like, that cannot be misconstrued as actively damaging to the values that, you know, we have established regarding the civil rights movement and the treatment of minorities. And again, as you say, I don't think there's anything malicious here. I think Hori just wasn't equipped to handle this subplot. And so here we have Shoji basically saying, Spinner, I get that we've suffered heinous discrimination, but I draw the line at property damage.
Right.
Because
And
that's
like
what it is. Yeah.
I know that like it's difficult for me to say what I want to say on this subject without taking a moment to think because again, this is not necessarily my struggle to be personally offended by, so I have to be very careful with the way that I frame this. But like when you've got a character like Tentacruel, where he's, experienced all of the same things that the villains have, and then he's still fighting to maintain the status quo, and that's being framed in like the good guy light, is you're also, by the exact same virtue here, framing everyone else who isn't doing that as being like bad people or like wrong for not just tolerating it. Because,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I saw on Twitter someone being like, "Oh, you know, there might be some activists in that group, but most of that group is just trying to destroy the city and do awful things." And that's like actually what real people said about the actual protests. And
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
it's so tone deaf to me. And again, he's not an American. He, you know, lives in Japan. He wasn't around for said protests, but it's very difficult not to draw the obvious parallel here because it's very clearly right there, even if the specific protests was not what he had in mind. For when it comes to American history, you can go far back, as many decades back as you want, and you've got
Hmm.
events like this all the way up through the civil rights movement and whatnot. Um,
Yeah, and I
and
think
like the panels where he's yelling about like I was persecuted too, and the people who hurt us weren't justified, but this is wrong. Better way than to just, you know, do whatever you want. And it's like, okay, but also why? Like, you don't have a better solution either than just like you should just sit and be good and wait until they notice that you're being good enough that they stop hating you. And
yeah.
like that and they framed it earlier as like not just property damage because he's like, well, what's your plan for the people in the hospital? How are you gonna make sure they're okay? Yada yada. Like I get it, but you gotta write stuff like this with a little bit more understanding to the fact that like Spinner's side has a point, a pretty good point, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
because the
like
thing is,
All for One is manipulating that good point for shitty reasons. Yes, he is the villain. He does bad
mhm,
things, but like that doesn't inherently make the people's initial grievance that allowed them to be manipulated wrong.
mhm. Yeah, because I also think an important thing of note here is that the way the protest is being framed feels extremely weird because on one hand you have an extremely sort of honestly justified goal, end discrimination of discrimination of mutants, and then the story goes like through extreme lengths to invent ways to like discredit that goal. Like, oh, the people in the hospital, you were just gonna leave them to die, and their leader Spinner is a literal brainless monster that just wants to destroy shit. It's like, you are making it very easy on yourself here, aren't you, Hori? Um, because when that one like mantis guy says says like, "Oh, I suppose you have a better solution." I was like, "Yeah, fucking tell him, fucking spit." Because
Right, and
yeah,
that's
just
like, but they frame it as he's being manipulative when he says that.
yeah,
But the fact of
like
the matter is, what Shoji is offering here is not a solution at all, in any
yeah,
way. It's just like on a micro level of I don't want the people in this hospital to get hurt, which is fine. That's,
hmm
violence bad, whatever. But like when he's sitting here saying, we've been shit on, like he says it in a flowery, douchey way, I guess, to make it like look how shitty he is, because that's how that for some reason my hero does that shit. Whenever someone's
hmm
giving a villain a speech, it's always got to be like overly pompous and flowery all the time.
hmm
Um, but he's like, do you have a societal solution? Because you're only really talking about yourself on like a micro level. And, society has been super shitty, and you're gonna, come in here and spout your specific tale as like an example that everyone else should follow, and that's not gonna cut it. And I'm really
hmm
worried that the conclusion of this arc is gonna be Shoji defeats Spinner, and everyone goes, I guess he was right, and
yeah,
leaves.
yeah. It really is feeling like this whole mutant like subplot that Hori explicitly with the imagery of the creature rejection clan tied to real life minorities. It feels like the ultimate conclusion of that is going to be the oppressed should just be quiet and be nice until the oppressor grows a conscience. Which, oh boy, that sure is something to accidentally stumble into. Um,
Yes.
and again, it wouldn't need to be the case if he didn't make that direct parallel, but he does, and at that point, he is asking us to take it seriously on that level. We're not digging deep into it. We're not nitpicking. We are doing as the author is instructing us. He's instructing us to look at this as an analogy, as a direct parallel to real life protests. And you say that, oh, he probably didn't have the BLM protests in mind, but I don't know if I agree with that. Like Hori is someone who is very sort of aware of America and very looks to America for a lot of inspiration. I could absolutely believe that this is like specifically something he came up with sort of, during the 2020 unrests. And yeah, if you choose to make me see that as a parallel, I am going to judge it as such. And that is not a judgment this plot point survives, in my opinion.
I agree with that. And it's
Oh,
weird too because Hori is like a big comic guy, right?
yeah.
And the obvious parallel here is the X-Men,
Mm-hmm.
where, you've got the X-Men themselves, and then you've got Magneto's Brotherhood of Mutants, and there's all this ideological conflict because the Brotherhood of Mutants is like, fuck people. We're better
Mm-hmm.
than them anyway. We shouldn't let them treat us like shit, whatever, yada yada. And then you have the X-Men that consistently stop them, and they don't think that that's necessarily the solution. But the difference here is that while like the Brotherhood of Mutants is considered like their villains, there's that mutual understanding between like Professor X and Magneto that they're just ideological differences, and
Mm-hmm.
that even if they don't think the other side is right and they'll never like agree, they're also not, I mean, they're like kind of friends still, right? Like they kind of have
Mm-hmm.
that mutual respect and that understanding that like, yes, I don't think that what you're doing is correct, but I can understand how you got to where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't pick up those vibes at all here,
Yeah.
because the way that Shoji say he is saying, I understand how you got here, saying your conclusion is wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and explicitly wrong while mine is right, and the story is very much backing him up on that, like narratively,
Yeah.
framing it as like, yes, you're all explicitly in the wrong here. This child is explicitly the only one who gets it right, and so I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay with my horrible scars and awful, lifetime of torture and abuse as long as you don't break the target windows. Is like the
Yeah.
vibe I'm getting, and it's bad. It's icky. It's real icky.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very icky vibe, and it's very unfortunate because, as I said, I do think by itself it is very sweet to have a character like Shoji have this sort of moment. Um, and to like Shoji's credit, not to dump on him completely, I do like the little thing that he says where it's sort of like this isn't something we can fix overnight. It's going to take a long time, which by itself I think is a good sentiment. But obviously, he then packages it as we just have to endure until then. It's like, No, no, you don't. Nah. Um, but yeah, obviously, I notice we're both like trying very hard to like think about what we're saying here
Well,
because this is
yeah,
like an
because
important
again, it's
topic.
not. I don't want to like talk over anyone who actually has like history with this kind of dilemma because
Exactly. Yeah.
as someone who has not experienced obvious societal racism in America, I can't. There's only so much I can contribute to this topic until it starts becoming stepping on toes. So you got to be real careful when it comes to the way that you're phrasing it here. But um, even from like that outside perspective, the vibe is just terrible,
Yeah.
terrible.
Exactly. And like to conclude this point, and I guess this segment, um, like this is the kind of like care and sort of hesitance that I think Hori could have benefited from. Because yeah, I think neither of us can really talk about this too pompously because yeah, neither of us are the direct sort of targets for the kinds of topics and the kinds of oppression that this signifies. And Hori doesn't seem to understand it all that well either. And I guess I would have wished more like care on his part and more tact when it came to a topic like this. Um, and I do want to be very specific and very clear here because I saw a couple of comments we got last week. This is not like something that irredeemably destroys the manga or like makes it unreadable. Like not at all. As I said, I don't think there's anything malicious behind here. This is just
No, I don't
clumsy.
think this is him like outing himself as a closet hard right like uh I don't know.
A
Not Ben
Westaboo.
Shapiro because of this all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
exactly. Like he's clumsy.
it's
He's a
that
writer who
well that's what it comes off as, right? Like it doesn't
yeah.
come off malicious, but it comes off as not well enough informed on a subject he probably should be very informed about before he writes about it,
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the social commentary in like the Star Wars prequels.
where it's just ham-fisted as fuck and not
Yeah, where
handled
it's
well
just
at all.
again it's clumsy because George Lucas has a big heart but not a lot of patience for like actually researching shit.
Right. And like
Yeah.
because I can vibe with the idea of like, oh, society should treat people better, but like it it feels super clumsy to take such a hardline stance on the way that should be done, especially when you're not part of that like that I don't know if group is the right word, but like you haven't experienced that. So it
Mhm.
comes off like telling someone that the way they choose to react to their own societal and like lifelong trauma is wrong for you because
Mhm.
it bothers you specifically when you're not
Yeah.
related to it at all.
Yeah.
It's just it's super
Yeah.
clumsy. Again, it doesn't come off as like he's trying to be malicious here. It's innocent insensitivity is probably the word that I would use.
Yeah.
Um, but the vibes are
He
kind of yucky. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't.
yeah, he
I'm not looking at this anymore and being like, oh, I can't read this now. Like it's just the vibes are icky. That's what it is.
yeah, and I think it's important to also like discuss this cuz I think the worst thing you can do about something like this is just shut all discussion down and be like, no, it's fine. Hori didn't mean it like that. It's like, no, actually, let's talk about it because Hori clearly wants us to take it seriously. Otherwise, again, he wouldn't have made that parallel. Um, and yeah, I think honestly, all it boils down to is he bit off more than he could chew with this subplot. He thought he could do it, and maybe he thinks he's done it. I don't think he has. That's really as simple as it gets. But all right, do we want to move on and talk maybe about another series?
Yeah, we always do this.
It's okay.
Um, all right,
For
so
regardless of how my hero is doing, it's always good for like discussion material.
it is. It
Even
is. God, we're
even if
10 minutes in this episode and we've still got four series to go.
that's fine. We got my hero out of the way.
It'll be quick sail into the
Yeah,
end here.
exactly.
Next up is Undead Unluck.
Which was fucking raw as hell.
It was
I
cool.
am.
The more I read this, I keep thinking to myself, like, if I think another series tried to do this, I would
Mhm.
find it almost kind of corny and stupid.
Mhm.
Cause a good example, even though I don't think it's necessarily entirely corny there as well, because I do like parts of it, is the final arc of the Bleach manga, where just all of a sudden you've got all these characters coming back from like
Mhm.
the past, and it's meant to
Mhm.
be like, oh, the the ultimate team up kind of thing, and it just doesn't fit quite right. But I think that the way that Undead Unluck has built these characters, and between the Union and then Under and like all this stuff, and then framing like helping all of them fix the traumatic events that led them down the path they were on to create something better is such a fucking cool idea. And I don't know if it's because it's Fuko doing it, because Fuko is one of my favorite characters in Jump right now among any series. Um,
Mhm.
but just the concept of an arc where Fuko is she has this whole roadmap and this timeline built out where she's gonna find every single fucking trauma that these people had to suffer, and she's gonna fix all of them to
Mhm.
bring together this like ultimate team to finally beat God is crazy. Like ugh.
It's great also because you know Battle Shonen have this whole thing, right, where like every character has a hashtag tragic backstory, like their "my brother killed my clan" moment.
Hmm.
Um, and Undead is almost like absurdly dedicated to this in the earlier chapters, where like every character you meet has like some tragic backstory to them. And the fact that the series now leverages this as like essentially the final arc's big crux, that now we have to make sure no one has a tragic backstory, is so cool. Like just on a meta level for like Battle Shonen, that's such a fun idea. And it really like because obviously now with the manga author being back and the whole thing with Fuko sort of uh conceptualizing the world a lot through manga, it's pretty clear to me that the author is a big fan of Shonen Jump
Hmm.
himself, and to have like this trope be turned into like the final arc is so fun. Like it
Yeah,
just
and
feels
like
so good.
again, to me, I think in other works of fiction, if someone were to say, "Oh, we're gonna fucking redo the timeline so that everything bad ever had never happened," I'd be like, "That's so fucking stupid." But the
Hmm.
way that Undead Unluck has built it up, and like with the loop resets being such a natural part of the story, like
Hmm.
it was a big thing in when Final Fantasy VII Remake came out. Sorry to anyone who hasn't played it. I'm gonna spoil the fuck out of you a little bit here. Um, have you played it?
No, but I've been spoiled on it.
Okay, so then it doesn't matter. So you know the
Hmm.
ghosty things that everyone hated,
Yeah. Yes.
um, that were there to like protect the sanctity of the timeline, and then they're all
Yes.
dead, so you can do whatever the fuck you want now. Um,
Hmm.
there was a lot of fear and speculation and whatnot because obviously in the end of remake we see that Zack is in some manner alive, and the
Hmm.
general theory is that that's a different timeline. There's other stuff going on, and now that the what's their fucks are dead, that timeline was able to change. So it's not like the past, it's just like different realities or whatever. I don't know. But there's a
Hmm.
lot of fear going into this next installment that because the timeline is now changeable, that they're going to use that as an excuse to take away the big moments. Like, especially Aerith, that's a big fear, is
Yeah.
that they're going to intentionally change it so that Aerith doesn't die, despite that
Hmm.
being like one of the most iconic moments in video game history.
Hmm.
And so I agree that that would be terrible, and like it would feel stupid and cheap to be like, remember the bad stuff? Not anymore. That's how you make your
Hmm.
fans happy, like. But the way that Undead Unluck has built it up is so natural, and it flows perfectly, and it makes complete sense in the way that the world is structured, and that the arc is. It's just fucking masterpiece shit.
Yeah, it's so again because Undead Unluck has this like crazy energy to it, where something like this just doesn't feel out of place. Like it's already played so much with the idea of like reality and time and the loops and all that, that this really does not feel like, because I think the problem with like something like Final Fantasy VII Remake is that it's not really in line with Final Fantasy VII as a property, uh to be like that meta about it, even though I personally don't mind it as an idea too much. Whereas on an Unlock, like from basically the start, it's been like, hey, let's fuck with the concept of manga. So yeah, no, I get what you mean. Also, do you know about that theory that they are gonna save Aerith, but then she can't turn into holy, and then she either has to kill herself or there's like a new conflict for how they defeat Sephiroth.
I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense to me because I don't think Aerith needed to be dead for Holy to work.
Wasn't it that she literally turns into the holy materia though after death?
No, she is in the life stream, and part of her being a Cetra is that she's able to help like manipulate the life stream.
Oh, right,
So
right, yeah,
Holy isn't work. Holy fails in the original game.
right.
They save it too late. Basically, Cloud's too late. And by the time
Mhm,
Holy goes off, the meteor's already halfway through. Um,
mhm,
and then Aerith uses the life stream to push the meteor back out of the shield so that it's no longer
mhm.
able to get through. That's how they win it in the end.
Okay, okay, that was how it
Um,
was. Okay.
yeah, so I feel like if Aerith is still alive, she could just cast Holy herself.
Hey, it's okay. Come on, man. Like no more Agaras.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, Undead Unluck was very cool. Um, I am like very interested to see what the pacing is gonna be like now, because this feels like something that could be like very long or it could be very quick. So I'm interested to see which option it chooses.
I hope that hmm, I don't want it to be super long. I know a lot of people were like, well, obviously this is going to be like a complete full final arc. I don't know that I want it to be like 200 chapters of content of
Mhm.
her going through everyone's One Piece backstory one at a time and undoing them. Um,
Mhm.
but I do want it to be I mean, this is a stupid thing to say, but I want it to be enough time. Because, like, Andy got that big solo arc, basically, that was just
Mhm.
all him. And now that he's been
Mhm.
removed from the story and Fuko is not, like, a combat capable character, I really like
Mhm.
the idea of an arc of her resolving these issues in ways that only she can, and in ways that Andy's mentality of I'm gonna slice it in half with my bones won't work?
Mhm. Yeah, no, I get that. Like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see sort of what, yeah, what the speed of this is going to be. Because what I also don't want is like, oh, in like 2, 3 chapters, she goes like from every backstory, hopping around, like just solving all the
Yeah,
issues
I
like a
don't want it
fairy godmother.
montaged either.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, very, very cool and exciting out of 10, in my opinion.
Yes, I will co-sign that. Cool and exciting out of
Excellent.
10.
Excellent.
So next up we have Akane Banashi.
Which was also cool,
The reveal that she only knows a few stories was so crazy to me.
right?
I think because up to this point I've just considered her like the ace. Like
Yeah.
she's just been fucking unstoppable this whole time. So this notion that she only knows a few and that's crazy. Because the guy even says like for where she is right now, that's not that weird because you know new people don't know a shitload of them. She's brand new basically. um
Mhm.
but she's way like insanely talented, so it's kind of like ridiculous that she doesn't
Mhm.
know more. And then they kind of question that if she's being trained properly or not. So I really want to see like how specifically her teacher has been teaching her and like if that's going to impact it. I'm really interested to see the way that resolves.
Yeah, because it's also interesting because you know how they say like in Battle Shonen to make your character interesting, you need to give them like a specific weakness. It's interesting that that's almost like mirrored here in a distinctively non-battle shonen, where you just give her like this very distinct, very specific weakness that will really fuck her over in the future if she doesn't like deal with it.
Hmm.
And that's yeah, that's super interesting because it's something I hadn't even thought of that. I hadn't
Yeah,
even
it
thought that you
it
like have to
never
actually
crossed my
learn it.
mind that she
Yeah,
would like not be able to adapt to whatever they gave to her.
yeah. But it's cool. It's cool that she hits a roadblock, and now we can see sort of what she does. I mean, the obvious answer is just learn more stories, girl. Um,
Right.
but still, it's interesting. I was also really into like the little explanation they gave on like how to organize a Rakugo event. That was like weirdly interesting. Where it's like you don't want to bore people by having too many similar stories, and they have to be like at a distance of like a fan. That's really cool. I like little stuff like that. It feels understandable even to someone like me who's never been to Japan, at least consciously. I was once when I was very, very small. And I also like the guy with the headphones. He's cool.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like with this chapter, it's a very minor thing, is it feels like we really rushed through where we are. Like I was very surprised when they were like, "Oh, it's over now." I was like, "Huh?" I feel like
Yeah,
that was really quick. But
it is a
otherwise, I
little
think it
weird.
was very good.
It is a little weird as well because we got here through an 8 month like time skip, if you remember.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we had because I remember we had that discussion of like, I guess she's out of school now. She's like a
Yeah,
professional now. Um, and just, yeah, it just feels very weird to be like, this is your first step as and it's over. It's done.
yeah,
You know, like I don't know, but
but yeah.
it was good, and I like both of the new characters that we've got actually.
Hmm.
Um,
As in like the different
the new
masters
boy
there.
and
That
his teacher, yeah, or not his, I guess not his teacher, but the lady.
yeah. I'm also interested in his teacher though, because he the
Yeah, the like,
national treasure.
hmm
So he must be even above the other guys because they say he's the sole national treasure of the current Rakugo world. So that's interesting. But yeah, I am excited for the future of Akane Banashi.
yeah, me too.
All right, what is next?
Next up is Jujutsu Kaisen.
Which was fun as fuck. Uh, the discussion between what's her name?
Yuki.
Two Yuki. Yeah, the discussion between Yuki and Tengen was a little odd to me. I'm not quite sure what to make of that yet. But fucking Kenjaku just storming the Star Corridor, that's fucking dope.
hmm
Love that entire section. And
Pretty
also
much
like,
everything from the minute that he sees Chozo onward is like so fucking good.
yes.
And you know, I
But what
saw a
did
lot of people
you
complaining about his motivation is that he like doesn't have one. Like this was him saying he doesn't have a motivation. But like
Mhm.
that's inaccurate. Like
Mhm.
his is basically the same thing as like a mad scientist. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if like what the conclusion to this is going to be, but I have a desire to have that knowledge, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not the same thing as him being like, "Eh, I just been bored as fuck." Like it's not that at all.
uh yeah, like interestingly, when I was reading this chapter and he was talking sort of about his motivations, all I could think of is like alchemists in like old classic novels, where like their only goal is to like find the secrets of the universe, not because they necessarily know what to do with them, but just because they feel like it's something we need to do as a species. And it's very much that, right? It's just like what lies beyond the limits of cursed energy. I can vibe with that.
hmm
Especially with like the cool visual of like the fucking centipede monster.
Yes, over
Um,
the city,
that's fucking crazy looking. Um, and yeah, Yuki was a star plasma vessel.
which
Interestingly,
was very strange. And we learned that uh, there were other options besides Rico, and he just decided he didn't want to.
yeah, he just didn't decided he didn't want to merge at all. Yeah, as I said, that entire section was weird to me. Like his logic was a little odd. Um, I'll probably have to reread once we have more context. But yeah. Um, and obviously, praying for my boy Choso.
Yes, Rip Choso.
Yeah, I don't think he's managing this.
No, um, this cliffhanger pretty much felt like, hey, say goodbye to your boy. Um,
Yeah.
I do think it's really funny that that we're in the exact same situation we were with Kamo. And
Mhm.
with Kamo, he was like, yeah, you're not really worth cleaning off the floor. But with Choso, he's
Mhm.
like, I'll kill you. So, like,
Yeah.
again, Choso wins at being the
Chose
better blood user.
he's the better combo, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was really interesting also the way he explained his plan. Um, and also we know now that Tengen was a woman at some point. That's interesting. I
Would you
don't know
mean
if
the
we
granny
needed to.
thing?
Well, yeah, because he says I'm actually more like a granny. I interpreted as that as it doesn't matter now, but when I was human, I was a woman. That was sort of my takeaway from it.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, I guess we never see Master Tengen when he was a human. They always refer to him as masculine, though, and some people have seen him. So
No,
I don't
that's
know.
true.
I kind of took it as being under the assumption of like because I'm no longer like human and I don't have
Mhm.
that gender like binary, I'm closer
Mhm.
to the default and everyone's a lady at first and then you grow your boy bits afterward if you're a guy. So
Mhm.
that's what I took from it. But maybe he was a woman when he was alive. I don't know.
Maybe this is our first gender fluid king.
Our
I
first
mean, no, that's
non-binary sorcerer.
actually that's not true. Kirara, although they're not non-binary, they're trans. I think.
Are they? I
Right?
thought they. I don't remember if they are.
They were.
I mean, I know they dress effeminately, but I don't know if they do they refer to Kirara with feminine pronouns and stuff.
I thought so, but I'm not sure. Either way, uh, Kirara is not gender binary. I would say.
Well, no. Either way, Tengen's a fucking thumb.
Which they
Like,
confirm.
they confirm it in this, which is really funny because don't we have a thumbnail where it's literally a thumb in a suit for him?
Yes, yes.
Confirmed. Akutami watches the show. Thank you,
I
King.
mean, he absolutely does.
He
As
probably
does
does because literally all we do is lavish praise on Jujutsu Kaisen constantly. He's probably watches the show whenever he needs to like get out of a bad mood.
no, he watches the show and then he's the one guy who like comments every week saying that Akutami sucks because that's a totally a thing he would say.
It totally is.
Uh-huh. Um, but yeah, no, very fun chapter. Very interested to see where this goes. Out of 10.
And then that puts us in the final chapter, which is Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, or rather the final two chapters technically.
Well, yeah.
Um, this is really cool. I really like the clothes sword that Asa pulls. That's really
Yes.
fun. And she just dismembers the Justice Devil, and then, dude, the moment I saw that girl that girl that comes to help has Makima eyes,
Yes. I
my
was like,
brain
oh fuck.
evaporated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had like a PTSD moment. I was like, not again. No,
yeah.
not more.
Because people have pointed out since that Yoru has the same eyes as well, so those are probably the Horseman eyes.
Right. Yeah, like the eyes for the horseman devils.
Hmm.
Um. God, I'm stressed.
Yeah, me too. What Horseman do you think she is?
That girl?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, because I assume when she said my little sister, she was talking about Yoru.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
and I don't know if there's like horseman lore, like which one's first or not. So,
Not that I know, because I think
I
all
mean,
media reinterprets them.
I- death would feasibly make sense because she had the power to stop her from
Death?
dying,
Mm-hmm.
and like she amped her up, and I can't think, I mean, war is Yoru, so that's I don't see how like famine or whatever the one that Makima is would be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So death is the only one that makes immediate sense to me,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Also, she has Chainsaw Man earrings. Did you notice?
Does she?
Yeah, because they're like the little they're the grips of the
Oh, they
line Genji
are.
pulls. Yeah.
Although, didn't Reese have one of those on the side of her neck for her power?
She had a similar one, but that was like a grenade
Oh, was it
pin. I
shaped?
think
Okay. So
yeah, I
then, yeah,
think it
those
was
are
shaped
shaped like the
differently.
actual chainsaw
Yeah.
pulley. Oh man, that's interesting too.
Yeah, so I'm
I had
assuming
just assumed
either
that was part of her devil thing, not an actual like chainsaw man thing.
yeah, I mean maybe the character she overtook or the devil himself herself is a Chainsaw Man fan in universe, which would be interesting sort of, in conflict with Yoru. Um and then of course, once we are done with that chapter, we get to the actual Chainsaw Man chapter
Oh my
where
god.
Denji comes back.
This is one of my favorite chapters of Chainsaw Man in a long time because it's so fucking stupid in like the best way. Where Chainsaw Man's just fucking her day up and she's like, I can read his mind and he's not thinking about the fight even a little bit. All he's thinking about is trying to expose his secret identity and not being like sus about it.
It's so dumb.
It's so I fucking love Denji so much.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, he has kind of grown as a character, but also at the same time, he really hasn't. He's
Yeah,
just a
like he's
fucking brat.
grown in like a lot of ways to be like a more mature, thoughtful person, and then he's also just still a fucking idiot. I love him so much.
Like the sequence where he's like, "Oh, you leave me no choice. I don't want to blow my cover, but oh well." That's just so funny.
Yeah, the
Um,
whole panel where he's like, "Stop now, you mean devil. As a superhero, I can't just let this go." And then afterward, she's like, he's trying to figure out how to blow his cover without making it seem weird, even though that was like the shittiest, weirdest way to do it.
well, also I like the way, like Yoru is just like Chainsaw Man. He's like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
what's up?
hey, yeah, hey.
Hey, girl in underwear, are you my government mandated girlfriend?"
Now that my identity is totally revealed, I really
Oh
hope they
no.
keep with the gag of him trying really fucking hard to get people to know he's Chainsaw Man and no one does.
Yeah. No, no, this is so fun. It looks like the Justice Devil is done for though.
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah. Although, so here's a thought I had. I recently reread a bit of Chainsaw Man again, which sort of brought it back into the forefront of my mind. And do you think we're gonna see Denji eat another devil again, like he did with Makima?
Well, I don't know, because now I've seen people saying that Denji ate Makima and Chainsaw Man didn't, so it didn't actually work. And I don't know where that's coming from.
Because I guess the Control Devil still exists, as does the concept of control. But I just assume that it's because the Control Devil is too fundamental.
Well, and the Control Devil and Makima also aren't the same thing. Makima was not like, I assume, much in the way that like Denji and Chainsaw Man are not inherently the same thing. Like Denji wasn't the first Chainsaw Man. That
Hmm.
Makima was also not the only Control Devil to have ever existed, right? So like
Hmm.
I would assume that getting rid of Makima doesn't get rid of the Control Devil. It would have to be the Control Devil itself. But like Pochita really is Chainsaw Man, right? Like
Yeah.
so killing off Denji wouldn't necessarily get rid of Chainsaw Man as a being. But I
Yeah.
saw a lot of
Yeah.
people because there was some discussion about like why do people still remember Makima? Because what's his name? The guy with the mouth scar,
Kishibe.
Kishibe, yeah. In the toward the end of it, like still remembered Makima, like he still under like knew who that was,
Hmm.
um, even after Denji had done that. And so people are like, well, the concept of Makima still exists, so like it must mean that Denji eating it is not the same thing as him pulling the chainsaws and then eating it, which
Hmm.
I don't know. Like I don't think we have enough information to make that assumption either way.
Hmm.
But I don't know. It's just it's very weird. Like I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that the stuff with War will shed some more insight on that because her whole thing is I want to get something that you've eaten back.
Yeah, the
So I
nukes.
feel like we're gonna have to learn more about like what specifically happens when he eats things
Hmm.
through what she's doing.
Yeah. Speaking of Yoru, I do like that we got our girl in skimpy clothing moment in this series, and it's just the most unappealing thing in
It's
existence.
just awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a conversation I'm not eager to have again because I had to deal with a bunch of fucking idiots. But like, there's a big difference between sexualizing a moment in order to make you like sexually interested in the moment
Hmm.
and like having a girl in her underpants and it's just the worst thing that you've ever seen in your life. Like she's spattered in blood and like sobbing on the floor. Like it's not a sexy chapter. And it's
Yeah, it's
also like an actual literary thing to like juxtapose what's something that's supposed to be pretty and making it awful. That's why there's a
hmm
shitload of nudity in like horror movies and stuff. Um,
hmm
so like
that
again, it's just I don't know. It's weird to look at that and be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he's sexualizing it this way."
sexualizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very weird to read it the same way as like Fire Force, where the girl trips and rolls into someone and then their hands immediately slide up her top and grope her and all that stuff. It's just weird to equate the two things to me
Yeah, because I saw a lot of people like point towards the first panel where we see her with the clothes
with the
sword.
sword. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, it accentuates her curves, and it's like, yeah, I can see that, but also it accentuates like her ribs jutting out and her extremely like non-traditionally like attractive underwear. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like this is not an appealing image. I'm sorry.
No, and it's also weird too to see people making such a big stink about this in a series in which Denji, also an underage person, was completely naked. He's the only character I think ever, other than the like lesbian panel that got it pulled off the app that one time.
Uh,
That's been just full on naked on panel is Denji, and no
uh
one gives a shit about that. It's super like
was wasn't Reese also naked with him? And that
so
are you talking
Reese
about
was
the pool scene?
naked, but in an anime way where like she's just looks like a Barbie doll.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Denji is just full on ass out, just straight up.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, I feel like this is also one of those discussions that one can just have up and down forever,
Yeah,
right?
where there's different expectations. It gives me those same icky vibes where it's like if it's a girl, then it's like horrible, and if it's a guy, then sexual mistreatment is like nice, bro. Like
Yeah.
icky vibes
Yeah.
from people discussing that topic on Twitter.
My take on it is that Fujimoto would have to try really hard to sexualize anyone anyway because his art style makes everyone look like they smell like a public bathroom.
Right, and I think it's funny too because like Power had all those moments in Chainsaw Man Part One, where like
Hmm.
it was meant to be like, look, she's a hot lady and she wants you to touch her boobs, and then she's also like sitting on an unflushed toilet because she's the worst.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like, you know, it just doesn't work quite the same.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, also, I've seen some people be also like, okay, but it's like the active choice of like having an underage person be in underwear. How is this any different from something like Momo from My Hero? And it's like having something in your story doesn't mean you're trying to like idolize it or sexualize it. And also there is a matter of scope, right? Like this is one chapter, well, two chapters basically, compared to Momo, where her entire character is basically what if this high schooler had massive tits?
Right. And
So as a
I think it's a more like I will probably start kind of side-eyeing it as well if she's able to restore the uniform and keep wearing it, and she has to do this every time she wants to make a weapon.
yes,
Um,
yes, that
to
would be
my
sus.
understanding of her powers and expectation in general is that she's going to just have the sword now and just wear different clothes.
Hmm.
Because I've
Yes,
never seen her restore anything she's made into a weapon before back to its original form. Um,
right.
which
Because wasn't the
also
whole
adds a lot of character to this moment as well, because like what she makes a weapon out of. Because like the whole argument here is that like, oh, turn your friend into a weapon. Well, I can't do that because I don't want her to die. And if I make her into a weapon, I can't fix her again. So it adds some character to her because one, she's an extremely like introverted, shy like nerd who would not be comfortable taking her clothes off in public like that. Two, that uniform means a lot to her. It's something that's very special to her, and so being willing to completely destroy it to try to save her friend is another character moment. Um,
Mhm.
and a lot of people are like, well, it didn't have to be the uniform. It could have been anything. But you're like, you're right, but it is. And that argument comes up with Momo a lot too, where it's like, well, he didn't have to make her hero uniform a spandex bikini to still make her
Mhm.
power work. He could have done other things. Um, and there is some character stuff with Momo too, where like when you see her in her casual clothing, it's usually extremely conservative. It's like full
Mhm.
body pants and a big ass turtleneck and stuff.
Mhm.
But one of them is obviously the more focused on of the two. And
Mhm.
you can kind of infer that she doesn't love that from, people. But like it, and again, nothing in this Chainsaw Man chapter was played with like a sexy joke in mind. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I keep flashing back to the moment in uh, USJ where Momo has to
Mhm.
pull her top off to use her power to make the whatever they're gonna use to fight the bad
Mhm.
guys, and Kaminari's there, and Jiro has to be like, "Don't you look!" Like, it feels like if it was a Momo moment, there would have to be some joke like that. There would have to be
Mhm.
Great Boy being like, "Ah, I'm nose bleeding everywhere." Ugh. Like, it
Mhm.
couldn't just happen and then no one comment on it and then it's over with. You know?
Oh, speaking of Great Boy, this has nothing to do with Chainsaw Man. I did find it cool that he felt bad for calling Shoji an octopus.
Yes.
that was cool.
I didn't have to pass and I called you an octopus moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was nice.
Um,
I like how weirdly like he's never on panel anymore, but all he does now is like try to fix his reputation.
yeah. I mean, okay, Zen, you have permission to laugh at me for this one, but I, for a while, was like not convinced, but very hopeful that Mineta would get like a character arc specifically revolving around the fact that he gets a girlfriend and then realizes, holy shit, I've been treating women like shit. And then, we get something interesting out of that. And in hindsight, I feel like such an idiot for ever expecting Hori to do that, but that would have been so cool. That would have been such a
I
nice like
have
version.
no investment in the grape diaper baby. As we've
Hey,
already established, babies suck.
that
Um,
is true. None would debate you.
Mineta will not debate me on Discord right now as to why his hero costume is fucking grape-headed baby with a cape. Um, but yeah, like it's just I feel like everyone's so quick to try to make a big deal out of everything because that's what internet
hmm
discourse is. You just kind of
hmm
internet discourse reminds me of a new kind of like gambling addiction where like and I'm guilty of it too from time to time like just you say some inflammatory shit because it's fun to watch people lose their shit about it for a while and then you just move on.
hmm
And so you kind of get addicted to like the outrage machine of like, oh, what are we screaming about on this leaks day? What are we screaming about this Tuesday evening? Um,
hmm
and you just kind of go with it. But it feels really weird to me to paint like this and Momo in the same light because it comes off as an
Yeah.
extremely immature understanding of like sexuality in media, which
Well,
isn't
yeah,
surprising, but
yeah. Like my opinion on this breaks down to Momo has been the way she's been for 8 years now. This is two chapters and
hmm
presented wildly differently. Like you can't equate it. The only reason you're equating it is because you're butthurt over my hero getting blasted once, and now want to bring the fight to someone, I guess. Which again, not out of character for my hero fans, but still weird. Um, but yeah, shall we close down that topic and
please.
with it? Yeah, also this chapter because I think we talked about everything.
Yeah, we have.
Oh
Uh,
no, actually, one last thing. I find it so funny when they ask Yuko what she gave up to for the deal with the Justice Devil. She's like, "Oh, there was no give. I just got stuff." And Asa is like, sure." Like
well,
I thought that was really funny.
doesn't she say like, "What did you give up?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't give up anything." But then she like goes on to talk about how things are different because of that. Like,
She's like, "I was given a heart that shines with the light of justice."
hmm
It's like, hmm,
and it's like, yeah, it's not really how it works. I also really love the concept that the War Devil's power is significantly stronger depending on how much they like the thing that they're turning into the weapon.
yeah, yeah,
That's a cool
and yeah,
concept.
and that's the whole thing with the closed sword as well, right? The reason I don't think you can restore it or do anything more with it is because if you could just restore the things you turn into weapons, then turning your friends into weapons wouldn't be a problem because you
Right, you
just
would just turn
pop
them
them back
back,
out.
which is like the whole
Yeah,
conflict of this arc was she was like, "Hey, you like that girl? Why don't you turn her into a weapon? Then you'll have a really
yeah,
strong weapon." Um,
exactly.
and now she kind of has that weapon because again, the closed sword was strong enough that she fucking obliterated the Justice Devil faster than Chainsaw Man did. Um,
hmm
granted, Chainsaw Man was fighting like an amped up giant version, but still,
Yeah.
um, it's I think that it's an interesting concept, and I want to see it more. And I also hope she keeps the sword, like
Yes.
because again, I
For
will
sure.
find it a little weird if every single time she has to fight, she has to rip her clothing off to do it.
Yeah, I
But
will
I,
find it.
I don't think that's what it's going to be. I'm pretty sure she's just going to have that sword now.
Yeah, yeah. Because if this starts happening again, I will find it weirder and weirder with every time.
Right. And, I think that's part of, like you said, with Momo too, where it's like at no point during all of their costume redesigns get a more conservative, like, not even conservative, but just not a latex bikini hero costume.
Mhm.
And I don't think that, like, and the thing too is, like, you can have her power be exactly the same and not need her to wear that outfit,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
But it's like her chosen battle garb, and like that's not going to be the case with this. At least my expectation is that it isn't. And if that does end up being the case with it, I'm gonna side eye it a lot harder than I did right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, but all right, is that it?
I believe it is. So thank you guys for joining in for another episode of Shonen and Chill. Next week we're gonna have the Patreon reader for October, the one that we end up choosing from that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll put up submission suggestions for the November one. And we will see you guys next week.
All right, folks, take care and be safe.